All right, good morning. Exciting time of the year. Can't wait for this week. Been looking forward to it for a long time, and really anxious to get the season started. And I know we've talked after each practices and throughout the process, but game week's finally here, and really looking forward to this one. A lot of hard work has gone into it since the last time we played, and a lot of just trying to get this program where we want it to be. So really encouraged by the response of our players and the way we've been able to grow together. Had a great experience on Saturday with going to the Colts game. Took 5 of our players and got a chance to be on the sideline there, and just appreciate the Colts and all that they do for our program and the way they handle things, and just appreciate Chris Ballard and his professionalism. So those guys that got to go really enjoyed that experience. So got a really good, strong group of leaders that I just think everything we do together just seems to exemplify those qualities of the kind of young men that we have in our program. So obviously today is a day that we are going to announce our starting quarterback, and our starting quarterback is going to be Mike Penix for the 2019 season. And so I know that's been a question that many of you have been asking about, and it was a very difficult decision in regards to the competition involved with the young men that Jack Tuttle and Peyton's an awesome kid. You know, he's one of the finest young men I've ever been around, and so much respect for him. And that was a hard conversation, you know. But I love each one of them, and that doesn't change. None of that has anything to do with it. But those are tough decisions that have to be made by head coaches, and so it wasn't what Peyton didn't do. It was more of what I believe Mike can be. And so we let these guys compete, and it was as we said all along, it was very close. We made a decision early last week, and so I can get the proper reps, and I'm excited about the future of our program. You know, Peyton understands his role, and the way he handles that and responds to that is critical. And he and I have had a good heart-to-heart about that, and I know it's hard. I don't diminish that whatsoever. But he's had an awesome attitude about it since outwardly, and you know, he's a competitor and wants to be the guy, but he will be ready at a moment's notice and accept that role and do an awesome job in that. And you know, as we all know, a lot of things happen throughout the season, and we're going to need all these guys. We're going to need Jack to fulfill his role, and he's got a bright future. He's got a lot of talent, and so really appreciate the way they competed together and the bonds they built and the way they've responded to the situation. And now we're all behind Mike as our starting quarterback, and looking forward to see him take off and lead this football team. Questions?
Coach, you said going into fall camp that on paper, you know, Peyton Ramsey was a starter and somebody was going to have to take it away from him. Obviously, I mean, Mike did on the field, but what did you guys see that made you feel comfortable that he was ready to be the starter and took the job from Peyton?
Well, you know, for me, he had to get healthy, you know, and you go through spring ball, and he was released to practice for spring football, but he was limited. You know, if we had had to play a full game in the spring, you know, he wouldn't have been released for full contact. So you had to get him through the summer, and you had to get him into fall camp. And obviously, we don't let our quarterbacks be live, you know, during the fall. But you have to see that it is back to 100%, you know, and then make that progression, you know, to be able to grow. And the thing that's a little bit unique about the situation is it's not like that he didn't play last year, you know, and so he played well in the first game against FIU, played well against Ball State, played really well against Penn State, you know, before the injury. And so we do have a body of work to look at in games, you know, because it's sometimes hard to tell in practice, you know. So to me, it was just about him coming back and just seeing, you know, where we felt like the best direction of our program is, you know, once you go through those practices. And so but it was, I'm telling you, you know, it was not some easy decision, you know, and it was a lot of discussions and a lot of going back and forth. But you got to follow your gut, follow your heart, and don't look back.
Obviously, you talked about it being the future of the program and the importance of that. I mean, is it a game-to-game thing from here on, or does he have a pretty wide leash, Michael, in terms of?
He's our starting quarterback here at Indiana. So, yeah, it's not a game-to-game decision, you know. So, but, you know, it's like anybody else, he's got to perform, you know. So, but that's it's not viewed like that. He's our starting quarterback, and so he's got to go and lead our team. And he knows that we made our decision, and he has my full confidence. But I tell you what, and that's what I've said all along. It's great to have 3 guys in that room that can play. And so it's a long season. A lot of things happen, and it's proven over time that you often play more than one. So we just got to but no, it's Mike Penix is our guy.
We've seen him in practice, the mobility aspect, even I think in the fall coming back from the ACL, it didn't seem like it bothered him much. I know Peyton is a guy that could give you some of that running threat, but it always felt like Mike was maybe just that little bit faster and more explosive than the other guys at quarterback. Is that something you want him to utilize regularly? Is it something where maybe it's more kind of as the option presents itself, or do you want him to be more of a true kind of dual threat guy in that way?
Well, I would say that schematically, it remains to be seen that we want to consistently have a quarterback that can extend plays, that can create with his legs, that's a threat to the defense, that they have to acknowledge that. Peyton gave us that. Mike gives us that. Jack can do that. In terms of just pure quarterback design runs, there'll be some. Yeah, that's going to be part of what we do. I don't know that there'll be any more than there was before with, in the past. But I do feel like that, to me, I always have the lens from the defensive side of the football, and where those plays really, really hurt you is those third down situations or those scrambles or when they create with their legs, and it just, you have to count for him in either the rush or with a backer or somebody to be able to have eyes on him, and that it affects your coverages, and it affects the way you rush the passer, it affects the way you call things defensively. So to me, I just see it being that guy that can create plays with both his arms and his legs, and I think that's where Mike's at his best.
Yeah, Coach, you talked about leadership and production when you were talking about, deciding on a quarterback. What intangible qualities did Mike show in terms of that aspect of it, the leadership aspect? What kind of leader do you think he can be?
Yeah, and that's where I would say, all 3 of those guys are somewhat quiet in some ways, especially Peyton and Mike, by personality. So they've both been challenged to be more verbal leaders, and I think that's an area that they both really worked hard at. Mike's really worked hard at. And I think the thing that he brings that you really can't teach and coach is just that natural calm and poise. I mean, he has that presence about him. The situation doesn't seem to be too big for him. He seems, you put him out there, like I said, had he not played in games, you just don't know, but he has, and I've seen that. And so that exudes to the guys around him. You get in those moments, and he's just kind of effortless at times about how he goes about what he does. And so I just think that's a leadership quality that it infects the people. It gives them confidence to know that he's just, he believes in himself, and he plays that way. And he's got a very live arm and athleticism and all those things, but just that quiet confidence about him. And there's no question, he's still young. He's a redshirt freshman, and so that's where I think, Peyton can come alongside him and help him in those areas. And that's the leadership piece that I expect, and guys working together, and that's part of being a team. And to me, it's LEO. It's care more about the team than yourself. And when we talk about LEO, we talk about I don't care who gets the credit because it's not about me. And those are challenges I have given to that room, and we've given that to the running back room and the receivers and both sides of the ball and specialists. And so, I just think that's where the strengths that Peyton has, the strengths that Mike has, they can come together and they work together, because at the end of the day, it's about helping Indiana Hoosiers win on game day. And that's the part where it tests your true character of who you really, truly are. So that's what I'm excited to see from our team.
Coach, kind of a two-parter. Was this the most difficult decision you've had to make as a head coach here at Indiana? And knowing that it was going to take something special to unseat the incumbent quarterback, how confident are you in how good this offense can be this year?
Well, it probably has been the most difficult one. I will say, the decision I had to make previously with Richard was hard, because I had a lot of love and respect for him too. And, I'm a relationships guy. So if you take time to build relationships with these guys, it's hard to sit down with a guy that you know has worked so hard. So it was really tough to sit down with Peyton. That was a tough conversation, and because I have so much respect for him, and that's not going to change, you know. And so, but I do care. But also the thing is neat is I think Mike cares too. I mean, he cares what Peyton thinks, you know, and he wants him, you know, supporting him and behind him, and he's got a great heart too, you know. And so I think that's a neat quality for Mike and for Peyton to have towards each other, and I think Peyton cared about Richard and what he was going through. So I just think there's some high character, high quality guys that we're dealing with, so it makes it hard, you know, when you dive into this and you know how hard these guys work and what they sacrifice to do what they do and help our team be successful. So yeah, it made it really difficult from that perspective. But then at the same time, you know, I believe in Mike Penix. I do, and I think he has. A lot of talent for sure, and he's got to go out and realize it on the field and just keep growing and developing. And I expect him to, you know. And I think we've got a lot of weapons around him, and I think those guys, they see it too. You know, they see it. They're the same practice I'm at, you know, and running backs and receivers and linemen, and that's the thing that's so unique about this is that they all would say, man, hey, you know, we have so much respect. We love these guys, and we believe in them, and they know, hey, they've told me, Coach, whoever you think is best, we're going to play hard for them, and we'll just follow your lead. And so it's just, you know, I think that we've got guys, and I told this to Mike. I said, Mike, you just got to go be you. You don't have to be Superman. Just go be you. Just play football, and distribute the football to the guys around you. You got a talented receiver core. You got a talented running back core. You got a big, strong offensive lineman in front of you, and you just play the game. And play with confidence, prepare at a high level, and just don't feel like you have to do everything yourself. You just go out there and just be you. And I'm excited for our offense. I'm excited for what we can become. And Coach DeBoer has a great plan, and I believe in him. And so I'm excited for the future of our offense.
With Mike being a left-hander, do you have any kind of different conversations either with Caleb or with Coach Hiller? Just all of a sudden, Coy's been protecting blind sides for 3 years now. It's Caleb's job. I mean, does anything change at all? Is that something maybe that you even discussed with Caleb kind of leading into fall camp saying, listen, if this does happen, then you need to be prepared for a little bit more kind of pressure on this side?
There's no question. There's a lot of things that you have to adapt to being a left-hander, you know, in terms of, you know, the movements and the way you certain throws, certain types of calls that you make or don't make based on the hand of the quarterback. You know, I know even defensively we have things that we do based on whether the guy's right-handed, left-handed. So yeah, those are adjustments that we've, you know, obviously going into this, you're aware of it, you know, from day one. You know, Kalen was aware that would be always a possibility. So even when, as Mike was in there, you have to make those adjustments. So, but, you know, we got a left-handed quarterback, left-footed punter, and left-footed kicker, you know, so quite a few lefties here at Indiana. But, yeah, that's interesting. I don't think I've ever had that happen before. But yeah, we had to definitely make some adjustments with some of those things.
Tom, considering that you were here with Peyton with a couple, you know, years of game experience and Kalen wasn't, I'm just curious, what was the decision-making process like between your input and what Kalen's input was for the quarterback job?
Well, I think you had you know, a fresh perspective. You know, he comes in with no preconceived thoughts about anything because all he would have done is, you know, watch us play on TV a few times and then watch the tape. But he obviously quickly realized that, you know, Peyton's a special guy, you know, a special leader and tough guy and does everything that you ask him to do, you know. So, but I think so it was a more objective, you know, in some ways, ability to go through and say all three guys, you know, because really it's, you know, and there's no question, I think at the very end, you know, Peyton and Mike kind of separate themselves a little bit, but, you know, I think all three guys had a fair opportunity to, you know, with a blank slate, come in with a new coordinator and learn a new system. And as I've said from the beginning, that's exactly what we did. We let him, you know, there's a few things that we kind of kept. But overall, we just said, hey, just come in and install what you want to call things and how we're going to do things. And so all three quarterbacks had the same opportunity. So I think you had a pretty objective way of evaluating it. And you know, we spent a lot of time. I mean, a lot of time talking this through and evaluating things and going through it and watching film and talking as a staff. And so, so I just think that you know, at the end of the day, you know, it was my decision for sure. But I think there's no doubt, you know, Kalen was 100% on board. But like I said, it was not just some clear-cut decision there. It came, you know, and we had to go through. So he saw the same thing I saw, and so, you know, both guys have a lot of good things they bring to the table, you know. So at the end of the day, you got to make that tough decision. You got to pick one of them.
Tom, as you come out of fall camp, who in your mind won the fall, defense or offense, number one, and then number two? What are your thoughts on Ball State?
Great question about who won the fall. You know, we go through and do competitions each day, and I'm telling you, every single day it came down to the wire on who would win that competition for the day. And oftentimes the last rep, you know, that we would come down to, and so we would have first down competition, third down competitions. We would have move the ball, which is basically you put the ball in 25, and if the defense holds them to a field goal, then they win that competition. If the offense scores a touchdown, they win. Or, you know, if they drive the ball, 2-minute situations, you know. So I'd have to go back and look to be specifically accurate. It was so balanced, you know, back and forth, which was good to see. I felt like certain days, you know, it seemed like whoever won the previous day, the next one came back the next day with a different sense about them. I will say that we had the last time we did into the game situations, the defense came up with 2 stops to win that, which was good to see. But we really put the offense in a really bad spot from a time. They had 0 timeouts and had to go score a touchdown, you know, and so from about, you know, 55 yards out. So those can be challenging with not much time left, less than a minute to go, you know, so put them in a bad position probably for that. But I will say that moving down when they need to get field goals, that's when the offense usually did a pretty good job of winning those competitions, you know. So I will say that you know, so I guess I'm not giving you a concrete answer because I don't know, you know, to say which one. It was so close. I very rarely felt like, man, when I walked off the field, man, that one side just completely dominated the other side of the ball. I don't think I ever felt that way at the end of a practice. You know, it was either one started fast, finished strong, or vice versa. You know, so and then thoughts about Ball State, and a lot of respect for Coach New. I mean, one thing, and I told our staff this, and I've told our players this: all you got to do is put the film on, see how hard they play against us, and see how they've started their seasons out. And they've played extremely well. If you look back since Coach New took the job, they've always played very, very well week one. And so that's a tribute to him and their staff and how they get them ready through fall camp and managing that schedule and getting their guys at the high level. And they went up to Notre Dame last year and darn near beat them, you know, and played extremely well. And then they just, I'm telling you, they are going to, whatever their very best shot is, we're going to get it. There's no doubt in my mind. And so we got to come ready to play our best football. And I know it's the first game of the season, and there's a lot of unknowns. There always will be. You can study film all you want. Yeah, their coordinators are the same, and they've got a very veteran football team. And I have a ton of respect for their skill guys. They got some talented receivers. They got an excellent running back crew and quarterback that played the last 3 games that did a really good job, played excellent against Western Michigan, a really good football team when they beat them. And 9 of their 11 stars are back on defense, you know, and so I know they've worked really hard, and Coach Elson's their defensive coordinator. I've known him for many, many, many years, excellent football coach and great football mind, and so I know they're going to play really, really well, you know, and so we're on a neutral site, you know, a venue we've not played in since I've been here, and none of our guys have as an Indiana Hoosier team. Some of them have played there individually, and it's a beautiful place, but it's new for us, and so to me, it's a great opportunity. Our word for this week is proof, because we got a whole lot to prove. And that goes for the whole season. We got a chip on our shoulder, and we haven't played for, you know, several months. And last time we did, it wasn't what we want. So we've had a long time to let this fester and let our guys really, really work hard to create change in this program, in both recruiting and now player development. Now we get a chance to go out there and prove it on the field. So that's why I'm so excited about Saturday.
Forgive me, this is kind of a loaded question in a way, but how close in your mind was Mike to winning the job last year? And I know he had the injury, but what were the things that maybe allowed him to close that gap and pull ahead as you think about evaluating him this time a year ago and now?
Yeah, and I don't like to speculate on things that didn't happen, you know, but there's no question. I mean, he, you know, was playing well against Penn State, and so I guess those things could have played out a certain way, and he was definitely getting to the point where we were believing in, you know. But once again, I felt like you had 2 guys. You felt like you could put either guy out there, and they're going to do great things for you, you know. And so I just think that for me, what was the second part of your question?
What were the things, even with the injury, that maybe changed
Yeah.
the way you evaluated him this time a year ago?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. I think the biggest thing is, you know, another year older. If he was a true freshman and I didn't know certain things, it would be, I would probably feel the same way about, naming him the starter, and so I just think that he's been in our program. Now he came, mid-year and he's here and he obviously had the injury. I know those injuries are hard. How he recovered from it, I think those are variables. I mean, to me, the grit that you have to overcome an ACL injury and you just see how he handles the rehab tells me a lot about him as a person. It tells me a lot about his work ethic, his toughness, his fight. Is he disciplined enough? You talk to our trainers, how does he handle the process, of going through that long rehab that injury creates. And so I think that's another variable that helped prepare him to be more ready for this, even though at the time, I guarantee you, it's the worst thing he, wanted to have happen and had not been hurt like that before. And so, but he'd probably agree, it taught him a lot of valuable lessons, So, and I think just the time, our strength, I rely on our strength staff. Those guys, we talk a lot about our players and especially our leaders and just helping him grow in those areas and things we did over the summer. He's part of our leadership council, and just being able to be more verbal and be more, taking ownership and calling out receivers when they, don't do things the right way or run the wrong route or whatever. Just having that confidence, and that it takes time to get that. And so I think those are things that I saw, and there's no question. I mean, he's, just like any other young player, you put him in those positions and you want to put him in a position to be successful, but he just needs to go take it and run with it, and take off, and realize the full potential of what he can become. And that to me is really what you see and what you make decisions off of. And you obviously have to have confidence that he's able to, be the guy to lead this team, because it's different than coming in off the bench than it is being the starter and knowing you're the starter and standing in front of the media and answering questions. And, things don't always, go your way. Like I told this to Mike, and I said it to all of our quarterbacks when I recruit them, and that is that the head coach and the quarterback, those two guys are very similar. And their two positions are similar, and they get too much of the blame when things go bad, and they get too much of the credit when things go right. But that's just the nature of being in those positions, and you better be able to handle it, and both the good and the bad. And so, to me, that's part of the growth that position demands.
Coach, Ball State has won a handful of times in the recent history of this series. How much of is that going to be a part of your messaging this week to the team?
Well, to me, anytime we play somebody that, on paper, it's Big Ten Conference versus the MAC Conference. And when I know the history of that, I've seen many, many MAC teams beat Big Ten teams, and it happened many times even last year, And so that to me is what we talk about. And there's no question I'll talk in the right way about the mindset that this football team is going to have when they step on the field against us. But some of that stuff that's happened in the past, it's in the past. To me, I'm really focused on what we're building here, and how we approach these type of games, and how we play in these type of games, and how we play to our standard of football here at Indiana. And that to me is what's the key. And but I'm never one to shy away from the reality of what can happen. And so but it's week one, and if you're not ready to play week one, then you got issues, so because it's been a long time to have a chance to play. And so I fully expect us to play our best football. And that's what, if those guys step on that field, that better be their mindset too, or they're not going to be out there very long.
Galen's talked about the need to create more explosive plays offensively. What about Mike's game leads to believe that he can create more big plays for the offense?
Well, I mean, I guess in two ways. If you just talk about him at that position, with his arm talent and his legs, I mean, those are two pretty obvious things that can create that. But to me, it's always not about, throwing the ball 60 yards downfield. It's the placement of the football to create the space for an underneath route that creates the separation, by ball placement and velocity, to be able to get him in position to take it and run with it after he catches it. And that to me are variables that he brings to the table, but that's where he's just got to go and execute the offense. But that to me is, those are things that I think that he has as some of his strengths, and that's what we expect to see.
You talked about the ACL compared to last year in terms of his mobility and how he looked. I mean, is he 100% to where he was, or would there still be some rust he has to knock off?
No, I think he's 100%, and that's how we feel. And you look at him, and he actually took a hit, not intentionally, but during one of our scrimmages, he got rolled up on, which I think was probably a positive thing, just to know that, hey, I took a hit, and You know, he was probably concerned at first, but it's like, okay, I'm fine. You know, I took a hit and now I'm good to go. So he's going to get hit on Saturday. So it's live bullets now. So there's no more blue jerseys. But he's 100%.
Speaking of hitting, how are you guys health-wise going in the week? I know Reese Taylor obviously had the hand. Is there anything else, or is everyone pretty good?
No, I tell you what, we've very pleased with fall camp. We went really hard and tried to balance it all out. But Reese is the only one right now that he's really day to day. He'll be practicing here. He's practicing today, and we'll practice all week. So we'll see where he's at. But other than that, it was. So far, so good on that, and that's you never know how those things go. But credit to our strength staff and credit to our training staff for doing a great job getting guys, when they did get nicked up, getting them back and getting them prepared.
Coach, I know Ball State's, they have a veteran offensive line, probably not what you're going to see later in the year, but still a lot of guys back who play a lot of football for them. You got a lot of new faces on the D-line. How excited are you to kind of see how your guys do against a unit that's played together quite a bit and could give them some problems, I guess?
I think that's a good, something to focus on, and we got to be able to, they're very experienced, and I've coached against, the MAC teams enough and offensive line play there of the good ones, and especially when they've been there a long time. And I felt like even a year ago, we went down to FIU, their O-line was similar. They had been together many, many years and played a lot of snaps, and they're well coached, and that's what I expect to see from these guys, And so, it'll be a challenge we got a lot of young guys, new faces, and new opportunities. But that's where the game is won and lost is up front. So that's going to be a key thing to focus on, and we just got to, we got to prove on game day that our D-line is what they need to be.